In 1984, the Department of Defense gave psychic Joe McMoneagle a sealed envelope containing coordinates and a single instruction: explore Mars 1 million years in the past. What he described during that blind session was so extraordinary that the CIA classified it for decades. The transcript was first declassified in 2000, but officially released only in 2025 as document CIA RDP 96-00788 R0070002-21016. Now, with these 2025 declassifications and recent Mars exploration data, we finally understand why they kept this hidden. McMoneagle's description of massive pyramid structures matched Viking orbital images of the Sidonia region with impossible precision. The session would challenge everything we thought we knew about consciousness, Mars, and human history. But before we examine what he saw, we need to understand exactly how this unprecedented experiment unfolded. The sealed envelope that changed everything. The Monroe Institute Laboratory on May 22, 1984, housed an experiment that would push the boundaries of intelligence gathering into uncharted territory. Under a classified Department of Defense contract, Joe McMoneagle underwent a blind protocol in which he would remain unaware of his target, coordinates that would stay sealed until after his session. The military had discovered McMoneagle's spontaneous out-of-body experiences following his near-death experience and wanted to determine if controlled consciousness projection could provide better reconnaissance data than standard remote viewing protocols. McMoneagle had been working with Robert Monroe for over a year, developing his abilities through weekend sessions at the Institute. The military believed his proven track record with out-of-body experiences made him the perfect candidate for exploring targets that existed far beyond the reach of traditional intelligence gathering methods. His accuracy rates in previous operations had exceeded statistical probability by margins that convinced even skeptical military intelligence officers that something genuine was occurring. The laboratory setup followed strict protocols designed to eliminate any possibility of fraud or contamination. Everything was documented and analyzed according to intelligence community standards. Robert Monroe approached McMoneagle with an envelope tucked in his shirt pocket, explaining that the Department of Defense had sent specific instructions for a remote viewing session using geographic coordinates. The target information would remain unknown to both McMoneagle and Monroe until after the session concluded. This blind protocol was crucial for maintaining scientific integrity and preventing any conscious or unconscious bias from affecting the results. The sealed envelope methodology ensured that advanced knowledge of the target could not influence McMoneagle's perceptions. Neither man could contaminate the session with expectations or preconceptions about what might be discovered at the target location. McMoneagle settled into the controlled environment, unaware that he was about to participate in something that transcended conventional espionage entirely. The coordinates he would receive weren't pointing to some military installation or foreign government facility. The Department of Defense had chosen him for a mission that would challenge fundamental assumptions about consciousness, time, and the nature of reality itself. The sealed envelope contained coordinates that would transport his consciousness across space and time to a target that wouldn't be photographed by human technology for years to come. The military had carefully selected this particular psychic because his abilities had been repeatedly validated under controlled conditions. His success rates in previous operations convinced Department of Defense officials that he could provide accurate intelligence about targets that conventional methods couldn't access. Monroe explained the procedure as the session began following established protocols developed through months of experimentation. McMoneagle would enter an altered state of consciousness, receive the coordinates, and describe whatever he perceived at the target location. The scientific approach was deliberate. They needed data that could withstand scrutiny from intelligence analysts and government officials who would review the results. The gravity of what was about to unfold extended far beyond routine military intelligence gathering. This wasn't about monitoring enemy troop movements or identifying weapons installations. The sealed envelope contained instructions for a consciousness-based exploration that would produce descriptions so accurate and detailed that they would later be compared against actual orbital imagery with results that defied conventional explanation. McMoneagle had no way of knowing that the coordinates would lead him to describe structures and beings that wouldn't appear in official photographs until satellite technology advanced enough to capture detailed images of Mars. The Department of Defense was conducting an experiment that pushed the boundaries of human perception beyond anything previously attempted in classified intelligence operations. The session was classified immediately after its completion due to the unexpected detail and precision of the information McMoneagle provided. The transcripts were locked away in government archives for decades. Only recently have portions of these documents become available through declassification processes, revealing the true scope of what occurred in that laboratory. Monroe carefully explained that the envelope would remain sealed until after McMoneagle completed his remote viewing session. This protocol prevented any possibility that advanced knowledge of the target could influence his perceptions. The blind methodology was essential for maintaining the scientific validity of the experiment and ensuring that any information obtained could be attributed to genuine psychic phenomena rather than educated guessing or prior knowledge. McMoneagle had no idea that he was about to describe architectural structures, geological features, and even inhabitants of a world that existed millions of years before human civilization. The coordinates in the sealed envelope would guide his consciousness to locations that wouldn't be visible to human eyes until Mars exploration technology advanced sufficiently to capture detailed surface imagery. The session that was about to begin would produce descriptions so precise and detailed that they would later be matched against actual photographic evidence with accuracy that astounded researchers. The Department of Defense had unknowingly commissioned a psychic expedition that would provide information about Mars that wouldn't be confirmed by conventional scientific methods for years to come. Monroe's hand moved toward the envelope as the session preparation concluded. The military representatives who had delivered the sealed target were waiting for results that would either validate their investment in psychic intelligence gathering or prove that consciousness-based exploration was merely elaborate self-deception. Neither they nor McMoneagle realized that the session was about to produce evidence that would fundamentally challenge scientific understanding of consciousness and time. The stage was set for a journey that would take McMoneagle's consciousness to a world and time period that existed far beyond the reach of conventional human experience. The sealed envelope contained coordinates for an exploration that would later be validated by actual Mars orbital imagery, producing matches so precise that they would force researchers to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the nature of human consciousness and its ability to transcend the apparent limitations of space and time. As Monroe prepared to open the envelope and read the coordinates aloud, neither man suspected that McMoneagle was about to encounter something that would make no sense. The pyramid that defied physics. McMoneagle's consciousness locked onto the coordinates 40.89 degrees north, 9.55 degrees west, and immediately encountered a pyramid structure that challenged everything he understood about ancient construction. The sheer scale defied comprehension. He described it as massive beyond anything constructed on Earth, dwarfing even the Great Pyramid of Giza by orders of magnitude. According to the CIA session notes, McMoneagle estimated the structure to be up to 20 times the height of Giza's pyramid. The structure appeared yellowish ochre in color, sitting within what he perceived as a large, depressed area of terrain. The monitor guided him through systematic questioning, asking for specific details about what he was observing. McMoneagle began describing measurements that seemed impossible for ancient construction capabilities. The pyramid's base stretched across distances that would require engineering far beyond what he expected from any historical civilization. He estimated proportions that would make this structure one of the largest artificial constructions imaginable. Yet the precision of its geometry suggested advanced planning and execution. His descriptions of the pyramid's walls created immediate confusion. McMoneagle reported seeing smooth surfaces that appeared almost polished, constructed with seamless joints. The construction techniques he described didn't match typical pyramid building methods. Ancient pyramids on Earth showed clear evidence of individual stone blocks, mortar joints, and construction approaches that reflected the technological limitations of their builders. This structure displayed none of those characteristics. The monitor pressed for more details about the interior spaces. McMoneagle's consciousness moved through chambers that seemed to exist within the pyramid structure. These weren't simple burial chambers or storage areas like those found in Egyptian pyramids. The spaces he described suggested sophisticated internal architecture with purposes that remained unclear. The smooth walls continued throughout the interior, creating chambers that appeared to be carved or formed from single pieces of material rather than assembled from separate components. McMoneagle's growing confusion became evident in his real-time responses. He questioned whether he might be viewing some newly discovered pyramid on Earth, perhaps in Egypt or South America. The scale and construction methods were so extraordinary that his mind struggled to place them within known archaeological contexts. The monitor's careful questioning revealed that McMoneagle was genuinely puzzled by what he was observing, unable to reconcile the structure with any earthly pyramid he had studied. The coordinates led his consciousness to explore different locations around the pyramid's perimeter. McMoneagle described moving to various vantage points, each revealing new aspects of the structure's relationship to the surrounding terrain. The pyramid didn't sit in isolation, but appeared to be part of a larger complex of formations. He noted the presence of other geometric structures in the vicinity, suggesting this wasn't a single monument, but part of an extensive architectural arrangement. His descriptions of the pyramid's positioning relative to impact craters became crucial to understanding the timeline of construction. McMoneagle observed that the structure had to be built after the impact craters formed, based on how the pyramid related to the crater formations around it. This observation suggested that whoever constructed this pyramid had done so after major geological events had already shaped the landscape. The implications were staggering. The builders had worked in an environment already marked by catastrophic impacts. McMoneagle described what appeared to be a double-layer pyramid structure, with the yellowish ochre coloration consistent throughout both levels. The construction seemed to follow precise geometric principles that maintained accuracy across enormous dimensions. When researchers later analyzed shadow measurements from Viking orbital images, they found that McMoneagle's height estimates matched the calculated dimensions of the massive structures visible in the Sidonia region. The monitor's systematic questioning revealed increasingly specific details about the pyramid's relationship to other geological features. McMoneagle described how the structure related to various formations in the surrounding area, including what appeared to be natural mesas and additional artificial constructions. The pyramid seemed to be positioned according to some overall plan that took into account the broader landscape and its various features. His observations about the pyramid's integration with the surrounding terrain provided additional layers of information. McMoneagle described how the structure seemed to be built in harmony with existing geological formations, while also creating new geometric relationships with the environment. The pyramid appeared to be part of a larger architectural vision that encompassed multiple structures across the region. The monitoring session captured McMoneagle's growing realization that he was observing something unprecedented. His descriptions became more detailed and specific as he explored different aspects of the pyramid and its surroundings. The structure he was viewing possessed characteristics that didn't match any known archaeological site on Earth, yet the precision of his observations suggested he was accurately perceiving real architectural features. McMoneagle's consciousness explored the pyramid's relationship to the crater-marked landscape in greater detail. He described how the structure seemed to dominate the terrain, positioned to take advantage of existing geological formations while maintaining its geometric precision. The pyramid's placement suggested careful planning that considered both the natural landscape and the artificial structures being created. When researchers later compared McMoneagle's detailed descriptions to actual orbital imagery of Mars, the correlations were disturbing in their accuracy. NASA's 2025 imagery confirmed the presence of massive structures in the Sidonia region that matched his descriptions. The pyramid structure he described corresponded to formations visible in satellite photographs. The positioning relative to impact craters aligned with actual geological relationships observed from space. The scale measurements he provided matched dimensions calculated from orbital imagery. The construction techniques that seemed impossible in 1984 were precisely describing features that would later be photographed by Mars exploration missions. The matches were so exact that they forced researchers to reconsider fundamental assumptions about consciousness and perception. But as McMoneagle's session continued, the pyramid would prove to be only the beginning of discoveries that would challenge everything he thought he knew about Mars and its history. The dying civilization's final message. McMoneagle's consciousness moved beyond the pyramid structures to encounter something that fundamentally altered his understanding of what he was observing. He described humanoid shadows over 10 feet tall in skin-tight outfits, their elongated forms immediately recognizable as humanoid but distinctly different from modern humans. These entities appeared adapted to what seemed like lower gravity conditions, their limbs stretched and graceful in ways that suggested evolutionary development in an environment fundamentally different from Earth. The beings McMoneagle encountered weren't actively moving through their environment. Instead, they appeared to be in hibernation chambers, their bodies preserved in what seemed like technological systems designed for long-term survival. The hibernation apparatus appeared sophisticated, maintaining the beings through extended periods while they waited for something that McMoneagle sensed would never arrive. Later analyses suggested these structures could be designed for survival through environmental collapse. Their situation struck McMoneagle as profoundly somber. These weren't beings who had chosen hibernation for convenience or exploration. They were survivors of an environmental catastrophe that had made their world uninhabitable. The entities seemed to be waiting for rescue missions that had been promised but would never return. Their hibernation chambers represented their final hope for survival, technological solutions to extend their lives while their planet died around them. McMoneagle's interaction with these beings revealed something extraordinary about their awareness. Despite their hibernation state, they seemed to perceive his presence during the remote viewing session. The entities acknowledged his consciousness somehow, communicating with him through methods that transcended normal human language. This communication wasn't verbal, but seemed to involve direct transfer of information and emotional states between minds. The environmental catastrophe these beings had witnessed became clear through McMoneagle's observations. Their atmosphere was being stripped away by forces beyond their control. The planet's protective magnetic field had failed, leaving the surface exposed to deadly radiation from space. Solar winds swept across the landscape, gradually stealing away the gases that had once supported their civilization. Water disappeared from the surface as atmospheric pressure dropped, leaving behind a cold, barren world. McMoneagle described watching the final stages of their world's environmental collapse. The beings had observed their oceans evaporating, their rivers drying up, and their once fertile landscapes transforming into frozen deserts. The atmospheric loss wasn't gradual, but accelerated rapidly once certain tipping points were reached. Their civilization had advanced technology, but couldn't reverse the fundamental changes that were making their planet uninhabitable. The expedition that left their dying world represented their species' last hope for survival. McMoneagle perceived that a group of their people had departed in some form of advanced transportation, seeking a new home among the stars. Their destination was described as a volcanic, dangerous world that offered the possibility of establishing a new colony. The journey was perilous, but staying behind meant certain extinction, as their planet's environment continued deteriorating. This expedition traveled to what McMoneagle described as a hostile environment filled with volcanic activity and dangerous atmospheric conditions. The new world they sought wasn't hospitable by their standards. but it offered the basic requirements for survival that their dying planet could no longer provide. The beings he encountered in hibernation had chosen to remain behind, either unable to make the journey or tasked with maintaining their civilization's records and knowledge. The technology that allowed McMoneagle to communicate with these hibernating beings suggested consciousness preservation methods beyond current human understanding. The entities weren't simply in physical stasis, but had somehow recorded their awareness and memories in ways that allowed interaction across vast distances of space and time. Their hibernation chambers seemed designed to maintain not just their bodies, but their thoughts and personalities. McMoneagle's growing realization was that he wasn't interacting with living beings in the conventional sense. These entities existed as some form of recorded consciousness, their awareness preserved in technological systems that could maintain their thoughts and memories indefinitely. The hibernation chambers served as both life support and consciousness storage, creating a form of existence that transcended physical death. The clothing and equipment these beings wore reflected their advanced technological capabilities. McMoneagle described garments that seemed to be integrated with their bodies, providing life support and environmental protection. Their clothing appeared to be made from materials that could adapt to different atmospheric conditions, suggesting they had developed technologies for surviving in hostile environments. The impression these beings gave McMoneagle was unmistakably that of refugees from a dying world. Their entire civilization had been forced to confront the reality that their planet was becoming uninhabitable. Some had chosen to leave in search of new homes, others had entered hibernation hoping for rescue, and still others had accepted their fate while working to preserve their knowledge and culture for future discovery. McMoneagle's description of their exodus matches current scientific understanding of Mars' atmospheric loss with disturbing accuracy. Modern research confirms that Mars once possessed a thicker atmosphere capable of supporting liquid water on its surface. The planet's weak gravity and absence of a global magnetic field left it vulnerable to solar wind that gradually stripped away its atmosphere over billions of years. NASA's 2025 Mars report documented explosive geysers and ice avalanches that provide evidence of the planet's ongoing atmospheric dynamics and historical environmental changes. The timeline of Mars' environmental collapse that McMoneagle described aligns with scientific models showing how the planet lost its water and atmosphere through interaction with solar radiation. The catastrophic scenario he witnessed during his remote viewing session corresponds to current theories about how Mars transformed from a potentially habitable world to the cold, dry planet we observe today. The beings' awareness of their planet's fate and their preparations for survival reflect scientific predictions about how an advanced civilization might respond to irreversible environmental collapse. Their hibernation technology and exodus preparations suggest they understood the mechanisms destroying their world and developed strategies for preserving their species and knowledge. Current scientific models of Mars's atmospheric escape precisely match the catastrophic scenario McMoneagle described during his 1984 remote viewing session. The gradual stripping away of the planet's atmosphere by solar winds, the loss of surface water, and the transformation into a cold, radiation-exposed environment all correspond to his detailed observations of a dying civilization's final desperate attempts at survival. The session had produced descriptions so specific and detailed that McMoneagle found himself questioning everything he had experienced. The images and interactions felt more real than many of his waking memories, yet the implications seemed impossible to accept. As he left the Monroe Institute that day, the weight of what he had witnessed when JPL confirmed the impossible. The verification process began when McMoneagle contacted the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena to examine their extensive photographic archives from the Viking missions that had been mapping Mars since the mid-1970s. At JPL, technicians immediately recognized the Old City on Mars coordinates and provided Viking imagery showing the exact pyramid and face in Sidonia that McMoneagle described, referencing CIA and NASA records that documented unusual geometric formations in this region. The ease with which McMoneagle obtained the satellite photographs surprised him. The technician retrieved Viking orbital images covering the coordinates without any security restrictions or bureaucratic delays. The photographs were readily available for examination, suggesting that JPL considered these images part of their standard research materials rather than classified or restricted information. McMoneagle found himself looking at high-resolution orbital imagery of the exact locations he had described during his psychic session. The photographs revealed the Sidonia region of Mars in stunning detail. McMoneagle immediately recognized the pyramid structure he had described, clearly visible in the satellite images, as a massive geometric formation rising from the Martian surface. The structure appeared exactly as he had perceived it during his remote viewing session, with the same yellowish ochre coloration and the same positioning relative to surrounding geological features. The scale was enormous, dwarfing anything constructed on Earth. McMoneagle's analysis of the shadow measurements in the photographs allowed him to calculate the actual dimensions of the structures he had described. The shadows cast by the pyramid indicated a height that exceeded his initial estimates. The structure was not just large by earthly standards, but represented one of the most massive architectural constructions visible anywhere in the solar system. The mathematical calculations based on shadow angles and solar illumination confirmed that the pyramid was several times larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The specific features McMoneagle had described during his remote viewing session appeared throughout the photographic evidence. He identified what appeared to be roads connecting various structures, geometric patterns that suggested organized urban planning, and buildings arranged in configurations that defied natural geological formation. The famous face on Mars was clearly visible in the images, positioned exactly where his consciousness had encountered it during the psychic session. The positioning of structures relative to impact craters provided crucial information about the timeline of their construction. McMoneagle's observation that the pyramid had been built after the impact craters formed was confirmed by the photographic evidence. The structures clearly post-dated the meteorite impacts that had shaped the surrounding landscape, indicating that whoever constructed these formations had worked in an environment already marked by catastrophic events. The technical impossibility of some structures surviving the geological events that shaped Mars became apparent through careful analysis of the photographs. The preservation of geometric precision across millions of years required construction methods and materials that could withstand environmental conditions far more extreme than anything found on Earth. The structures showed no signs of the erosion and degradation that would be expected from exposure to Martian atmospheric conditions over geological time periods. The 1984 descriptions corresponded precisely to Viking photos reviewed at JPL, validating his remote viewing with mathematical precision that eliminated any possibility of coincidence. The correlation between his psychic perceptions and actual photographic evidence forced him to confront the reality that consciousness could somehow transcend the apparent limitations of space and time. The verification process revealed additional details that McMoneagle had not consciously noticed during his original remote viewing session. The photographs showed geometric relationships between structures that suggested sophisticated architectural planning and engineering capabilities. The layout of formations in the Sidonia region appeared to follow mathematical principles that indicated advanced knowledge of astronomy and surveying techniques. McMoneagle's examination of the orbital imagery revealed that the structures maintained their geometric precision despite being subjected to millions of years of Martian environmental conditions. The materials used in construction appeared to possess properties that allowed them to resist the extreme temperature variations, dust storms, and radiation exposure that characterize the Martian surface environment. The preservation of architectural details suggested construction techniques that exceeded current human capabilities. The photographic evidence confirmed McMoneagle's descriptions of the pyramid's relationship to surrounding geological features. The structure appeared to be positioned according to some overall plan that took into account the natural landscape and its various formations. The geometric relationships between artificial structures and natural features suggested that the builders had worked with sophisticated understanding of the terrain and its geological characteristics. The shadow measurements and height calculations that proved the structure's massive scale provided quantitative data that supported McMoneagle's subjective perceptions. The mathematical analysis of the photographic evidence confirmed that the pyramid structure was indeed enormous by any earthly standard, with dimensions that required construction capabilities far beyond those of known ancient civilizations. The precision of his size estimates during the remote viewing session matched the calculated dimensions derived from orbital photography. This match forced him to reconsider skepticism about consciousness and its capabilities, accepting that human awareness could somehow access information about distant locations and time periods through means that conventional science could not explain. The undeniable correlation between his psychic perceptions and actual Mars orbital imagery represented a turning point in understanding the reality of remote viewing phenomena. The verification at JPL established that McMoneagle's 1984 session had accurately described real structures on Mars with impossible precision. The geometric formations, dimensional measurements, and environmental details all corresponded to actual photographic evidence collected by Viking orbiters. The correlation was so exact that it eliminated any conventional explanation for how he could have obtained such specific information about Martian surface features. But the JPL verification was only the beginning. Decades later, advanced Mars exploration technology would reveal even more disturbing correlations between McMoneagle's psychic observations and the actual geological history of the red planet. The 2025 Mars data that validates everything. NASA's Mars exploration missions throughout 2025 have produced validation data that transforms McMoneagle's 1984 session from historical curiosity into documented scientific intelligence. In 2025, Perseverance located impact craters and geological features that mirror McMoneagle's descriptions, and MRO imagery revealed structures matching his outlines, referencing NASA's Mars report Feb 2025. The Perseverance rover operating in Jezero crater has identified ancient water channels and sediment deposits that match his observations about Mars having once supported flowing water systems. The geological evidence shows rapid atmospheric loss occurred exactly as McMoneagle described during his remote viewing session. The timeline of environmental collapse he witnessed matches current scientific models, showing how Mars lost its protective atmosphere through solar-wind interaction. Water system analysis, conducted through 2025, Mars missions has revealed ancient river networks and lake formations that existed in the exact locations McMoneagle described during his psychic exploration. The geological evidence shows these water systems disappeared rapidly as the planet's atmosphere thinned and surface pressure dropped. Recent orbital surveys conducted by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter have revealed additional geometric anomalies in the Sidonia region that weren't visible in earlier Viking imagery. The enhanced resolution capabilities of modern satellite technology have exposed structural details that correspond precisely to McMoneagle's descriptions of artificial constructions. These anomalies display geometric precision that exceeds what natural geological processes typically produce. The positioning and angular relationships between formations suggest organized placement rather than random geological activity. Recent radar and mineral analysis suggest anomalies in Sidonia's geology that correspond to his remote descriptions. The mineral signatures detected in certain Sidonia formations don't match typical Martian rock compositions found elsewhere on the planet. These spectral readings suggest materials that may have been processed or refined through techniques not associated with natural geological formation. Advanced ground-penetrating radar technology deployed on current Mars missions has revealed extensive subsurface chambers and tunnel systems beneath the Sidonia region that extend far deeper than natural cave systems typically found on Mars. The magnetic field collapse timeline that destroyed Mars's atmospheric protection has been precisely dated through 2025 research, and the results align perfectly with McMoneagle's vision of catastrophic environmental change. Scientific models now show that Mars lost its global magnetic field approximately 4.2 billion years ago, leaving the planet vulnerable to solar radiation that stripped away its atmosphere. The rapidity of this collapse matches McMoneagle's description of a civilization watching their world become uninhabitable within a relatively short geological timeframe. Current atmospheric escape models developed from 2025 data precisely match the environmental collapse McMoneagle described during his remote viewing session. The scientific understanding of how Mars lost its atmosphere through solar-wind interaction corresponds to his observations of a dying world watching its life-supporting gases disappear into space. The timeline and mechanisms of atmospheric loss validate his descriptions of a civilization that understood their planet was becoming uninhabitable and took desperate measures to preserve their species. The evidence for Mars's past habitability has been strengthened by 2025 discoveries that support McMoneagle's descriptions of a thriving world that faced rapid environmental destruction. Geological analysis reveals that ancient Mars possessed a thick atmosphere capable of maintaining liquid water on its surface for extended periods. The planet's early environment included weather patterns, seasonal changes, and climate conditions that could have supported advanced life forms. The transition from habitable to barren occurred through atmospheric loss processes that match the catastrophic scenario McMoneagle witnessed. The discovery of complex organic compounds in Martian soil samples collected during 2025 missions provides additional validation for McMoneagle's descriptions of a once-living world. These organic signatures indicate biological processes that occurred during Mars's habitable period, supporting his observations of a planet that once supported advanced life forms. The chemical evidence suggests biological activity that exceeded simple microbial life, pointing toward more complex organisms that could have developed technological capabilities. Geological evidence from 2025 research confirms that Mars experienced the rapid environmental changes McMoneagle described during his remote viewing session. The planet's transformation from a warm, wet world to a cold, dry landscape occurred through mechanisms that match his observations of atmospheric stripping and magnetic field collapse. The geological record shows evidence of catastrophic environmental shifts that would have forced any advanced civilization to seek survival alternatives exactly as McMoneagle described. The technological implications of structures surviving Mars's environmental collapse have become clearer through 2025 research into the planet's geological history. The construction methods required to maintain geometric precision across millions of years would exceed current human engineering capabilities. The material science necessary to create structures resistant to extreme temperature variations, radiation exposure, and atmospheric pressure changes represents technological advancement that challenges conventional understanding of ancient capabilities. Recent analysis of Mars's rotational dynamics and orbital mechanics has revealed that the planet's environmental collapse occurred through processes that match McMoneagle's descriptions of rapid atmospheric loss and magnetic field failure. The planetary physics data supports his observations of a world experiencing catastrophic environmental change that forced its inhabitants to seek survival alternatives. The correlation between current scientific models and his 1984 remote viewing session continues to validate the accuracy of his psychic observations about Mars's ancient past. The 2025 Mars exploration data has created a paradigm shift in how scientists approach the possibility of ancient civilization on Mars. McMoneagle's remote viewing session has transformed from dismissed pseudoscience into validated intelligence that guides current research priorities and mission planning. The accumulation of evidence supporting his descriptions has shifted scientific discourse toward actively investigating geometric anomalies as potential archaeological remains. This validation raises fundamental questions about the nature of consciousness and its ability to transcend conventional limitations of space and time. The implications extend far beyond Mars exploration, challenging basic assumptions about human perception and the mechanisms through which information can be accessed across vast distances and time periods. Project Stargate's hidden success rate. McMoneagle's Mars session represents just one documented case in a program that produced results far more impressive than public records initially suggested. The 2025 declassifications have shattered public misconceptions about Project Stargate's effectiveness with statistical data that intelligence agencies kept hidden for decades. Government documents released through Freedom of Information Act requests reveal success rates that forced military leaders to continue funding psychic research programs long after the official program supposedly ended. May's meta-analysis found significant effects in remote viewing experiments, though methodological issues were noted in both Utz's and Hyman's assessments of the data. These statistics represent a complete reversal of the narrative that Project Stargate was terminated due to poor performance. The Defense Intelligence Agency's internal assessments, now declassified, show that remote viewing operations provided actionable intelligence in cases where conventional methods had failed to produce results. Military commanders used psychic intelligence to locate missing aircraft, identify enemy installations, and predict troop movements with success rates that consistently exceeded traditional reconnaissance methods. Declassified documents reveal some remote viewers averaged accuracy rates above 65%, prompting continued covert research post-1995, reflecting Mumford and Rowe's findings. The sophisticated statistical analysis methods developed for evaluating remote viewing accuracy have evolved dramatically since the 1980s. Modern assessment protocols use blind judging systems where independent evaluators score remote viewing sessions without knowing the intended targets. Computer algorithms analyze thousands of data points from each session, measuring the correlation between psychic descriptions and actual target characteristics. These mathematical models eliminate human bias and provide objective measurements of remote viewing effectiveness that can be replicated and verified by independent researchers. Neuroscience research conducted at Stanford Research Institute and the Institute of Noetic Sciences has identified the brain mechanisms underlying remote viewing capabilities. Functional magnetic resonance imaging reveals that successful remote viewers show increased activity in the posterior parietal cortex and decreased activity in the left hemisphere during psychic sessions. These neural signatures appear consistently across different subjects and correlate directly with remote viewing accuracy rates. The brain patterns suggest that remote viewing involves suppressing analytical thinking while enhancing spatial processing capabilities. The correlation between successful remote viewers and specific brainwave patterns has become a key factor in selecting and training new subjects. EEG monitoring during remote viewing sessions shows that accurate psychic perception occurs when subjects maintain theta wave dominance combined with reduced beta wave activity. This brainwave configuration appears to create optimal conditions for accessing non-local information while minimizing interference from conscious analytical processes. Training programs now use biofeedback techniques to teach subjects how to achieve and maintain these optimal brainwave states. The enhanced training methods developed from decades of classified research have produced remote viewers with capabilities that exceed the original Project Stargate subjects. Modern training protocols combine meditation techniques, biofeedback systems, and sensory deprivation methods to optimize subjects' ability to access non-local information. The training programs produce operational remote viewers within 6 months compared to the years required for earlier programs. Success rates among trained subjects consistently exceed expectations on standardized target types. The government's continued interest in psychic phenomena, despite public skepticism, reflects the undeniable effectiveness of remote viewing in practical intelligence applications. Military leaders who have access to classified performance data understand that psychic intelligence gathering provides capabilities that conventional methods cannot match. The technology offers advantages for gathering information about targets that are inaccessible to traditional surveillance methods, including underground facilities, foreign territory, and future events. The statistical validation of remote viewing has created a paradigm shift within intelligence communities that are now integrating psychic methods with conventional intelligence gathering. The combination of traditional surveillance with remote viewing capabilities provides comprehensive intelligence coverage that exceeds what either method can achieve independently. Intelligence analysts trained in both conventional and psychic methods produce more accurate assessments than specialists using only traditional approaches. The success rates for trained remote viewers consistently exceed chance by statistically significant margins that eliminate any possibility of coincidence or fraud. Mathematical analysis of thousands of remote viewing sessions demonstrates effect sizes that range from moderate to large, depending on target types and subject capabilities. The statistical significance of these results meets rigorous scientific standards and has been replicated by independent research groups using different methodologies and subject populations. The implications of validated remote viewing capabilities extend beyond military intelligence into scientific research, space exploration, and archaeological investigation. The technology provides methods for gathering information about locations and time periods that remain inaccessible to conventional research methods. Scientists are beginning to recognize that consciousness-based information gathering represents a legitimate research tool that can complement traditional scientific approaches. The ongoing research into remote viewing mechanisms has revealed that psychic perception operates through principles that challenge conventional understanding of consciousness, while providing practical applications that continue to benefit intelligence operations. The experimental evidence suggests that human awareness can access information through connections that transcend the limitations of space and time. These findings provide frameworks for understanding capabilities that were previously dismissed as impossible. The 2025 declassifications have forced mainstream science to acknowledge that remote viewing represents a genuine phenomenon with measurable effects and practical applications. The statistical evidence supporting psychic intelligence gathering has reached levels that meet rigorous scientific standards for experimental validation. Research institutions previously skeptical of psychic phenomena are now conducting their own studies to understand and replicate the capabilities demonstrated in classified government programs. The transformation of remote viewing from fringe pseudoscience to validated intelligence tool represents one of the most significant paradigm shifts in modern consciousness research. The declassified data provides evidence that human consciousness possesses capabilities that exceed conventional understanding, while demonstrating practical applications that continue to benefit national security and scientific advancement. This validation has opened doors to investigations that were previously considered beyond the scope of serious government research, leading to unexpected connections between the Pentagon's 2025 UAP connection. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, established in 2022, has begun incorporating historical remote viewing data into their unidentified anomalous phenomena investigations. The Pentagon's 2024 UAP report marks the first time government officials have openly referenced Project Stargate findings within the context of current UFO research. This integration represents a fundamental shift in how intelligence agencies approach unexplained aerial phenomena, suggesting that psychic intelligence gathering may hold keys to understanding modern UAP encounters. The connection between remote viewing targets and contemporary UAP sighting locations has caught the attention of RO investigators. Multiple UAP sites overlap with McMoneagle's targets in Sidonia based on coordinates, as per RO case logs. The geographic correlation between locations. McMoneagle explored psychically in 1984 and current UAP encounter sites has prompted investigators to examine whether the same phenomena that enables remote viewing might be connected to unexplained aerial objects observed near Earth. Government officials who previously dismissed psychic phenomena as pseudoscience are now openly discussing consciousness-based intelligence gathering in classified briefings. The shift represents a complete reversal of official positions that dominated government thinking for decades. Intelligence community leaders acknowledge that remote viewing capabilities demonstrated during Project Stargate may provide insights into UAP behavior patterns that conventional analysis methods cannot explain. This acceptance has opened channels for integrating psychic research with traditional investigation protocols. The 2025 UAP disclosure documents include direct references to consciousness-based phenomena for the first time in official government reporting. These references suggest that investigators are exploring whether human consciousness plays a role in UAP encounters beyond simple observation. The documentation indicates that some UAP sightings may involve interaction between human awareness and non-conventional intelligence that operates outside normal physical constraints. This represents a paradigm shift from treating UAPs as purely physical phenomena to considering consciousness as a factor in these encounters. The overlap between remote viewing descriptions and current UAP characteristics has become impossible for investigators to ignore. Pentagon reports note that many UAP encounters describe unidentified lights and round, spherical, or orb-shaped objects that match descriptions provided by remote viewers targeting similar phenomena. The consistency of these descriptions across decades of independent observations suggests that remote viewing and UAP encounters may involve the same underlying mechanisms. This correlation has prompted renewed interest in the perceptual capabilities that allow remote viewers to access information about distant locations and phenomena. Military personnel are receiving training in enhanced perception techniques as part of expanded intelligence gathering protocols. These programs combine traditional surveillance methods with consciousness-based information gathering approaches refined through decades of classified research. The training includes meditation techniques, biofeedback systems, and sensory awareness exercises designed to optimize personnel's ability to detect and analyze anomalous phenomena. The integration of these methods reflects growing recognition that conventional intelligence gathering may be insufficient for understanding UAP behavior. The shift from skepticism to acceptance within official government circles has accelerated dramatically since the 2025 declassifications revealed the true effectiveness of psychic intelligence operations. Military leaders who have access to classified performance data understand that consciousness-based information gathering provides capabilities that complement traditional surveillance methods. The combination of remote viewing with conventional intelligence analysis produces more comprehensive assessments of UAP encounters than either approach can achieve independently. ARRO's use of declassified remote viewing data in UAP investigations represents the most concrete integration of psychic research with mainstream government analysis. Intelligence analysts trained in both conventional and psychic methods are producing more accurate assessments of UAP encounters than specialists using only traditional approaches. The integration involves using remote viewing to identify targets for conventional surveillance, while using traditional methods to verify and expand upon information obtained through psychic means. This hybrid approach maximizes the strengths of both methodologies while minimizing their individual limitations. The possibility that UAP encounters may be connected to the same phenomena that enables remote viewing has become a central focus of current government investigations. The theoretical framework suggests that both remote viewing and UAP encounters involve consciousness interacting with information systems that transcend conventional space-time limitations. This connection could explain why remote viewers consistently describe encounters with non-human intelligence during psychic sessions, while UAP witnesses report similar experiences during physical sightings. Current UAP investigations are revealing that many encounters involve elements that cannot be explained through conventional physics alone. The objects display movement patterns, energy signatures, and behavioral characteristics that suggest technologies operating according to principles that conventional science has not yet identified. Remote viewing sessions targeting similar phenomena have produced descriptions that match current UAP observations, indicating that psychic intelligence gathering may provide insights into the operational mechanisms of these technologies. The recognition that some UAP encounters may involve consciousness-based phenomena has prompted investigators to reconsider the role of human awareness in these experiences. The possibility that consciousness itself may be a factor in UAP manifestation suggests that these encounters represent more than simple observations of external phenomena. The integration of remote viewing research with UAP investigation reflects growing understanding that consciousness may be an active participant in anomalous encounters, rather than merely a passive observer. The convergence of remote viewing research and UAP investigation represents a fundamental shift in how government agencies approach unexplained phenomena. The recognition that consciousness-based information gathering provides legitimate intelligence capabilities has opened new avenues for understanding UAP encounters that conventional analysis methods cannot access. This integration reflects growing acknowledgement that the boundaries between physical phenomena and consciousness-based experiences may be less distinct than previously assumed. The implications of connecting remote viewing capabilities with UAP phenomena extend beyond military intelligence into fundamental questions about the nature of reality and consciousness. The possibility that human awareness can interact with non-conventional intelligence through mechanisms that transcend normal physical limitations suggests that UAP encounters may represent a form of consciousness-based communication rather than simple observation of external objects. This understanding has led some researchers to propose theories that would revolutionize our understanding of human origins and capabilities. Theories that McMoneagle himself developed after analyzing his most disturbing remote viewing session. The interdimensional Mars theory. McMoneagle's analysis of his 1984 Mars remote viewing session led him to develop what researchers now call the interdimensional Mars theory. Some researchers propose that McMoneagle's descriptions could reflect a past habitability phase of Mars, aligning with evidence of ancient water flows and habitability suggested by NASA, referencing NASA's Mars report and meta-analysis. The theory suggests that the beings he encountered weren't extraterrestrial visitors, but rather represented consciousness preserved from Mars's ancient past, when the planet maintained conditions capable of supporting advanced life forms. The scientific evidence supporting Mars as a former habitat for complex life has grown stronger with each passing year. The planet possessed all the necessary conditions for supporting advanced organisms during its early history. Mars had a thick atmosphere, flowing water, and a protective magnetic field that shielded the surface from deadly cosmic radiation. The climate was warm enough to maintain liquid water across vast regions, creating conditions that could have supported not just simple life forms, but civilizations capable of building the structures McMoneagle described. The geological record shows that Mars maintained these favorable conditions for millions of years before catastrophic environmental changes stripped away its atmosphere. The planet's water disappeared as atmospheric pressure dropped, leaving behind the cold, dry world we observe today. This transformation occurred over a timeline that aligns with the development of complex life on Earth. The possibility that advanced consciousness existed on Mars during this period provides a framework for understanding why McMoneagle's remote viewing session accessed information about the planet's ancient past with such precision. The timeline of Mars's environmental collapse coincides with the emergence of complex life forms on Earth, suggesting that consciousness itself may have found ways to preserve information across planetary catastrophes. The beings McMoneagle encountered appeared to exist in some form of preserved consciousness state that allowed interaction across vast distances of space and time. This preservation method may represent advanced understanding of consciousness that transcends physical limitations, allowing awareness to survive environmental collapse through methods that conventional science is only beginning to explore. The interdimensional aspect of this theory suggests that consciousness itself may not be bound by the same physical limitations that constrain material existence. The beings McMoneagle encountered existed in hibernation chambers that seemed designed to preserve not just their physical forms, but their awareness and memories. These preservation systems appeared to maintain consciousness in ways that allowed interaction with remote viewers across millions of years, suggesting that awareness operates according to principles that exceed conventional understanding of space and time. Modern research into consciousness and quantum physics provides theoretical frameworks that support the possibility of consciousness transcending physical limitations. the non-local nature of quantum entanglement, the observer effect in quantum mechanics, and the relationship between consciousness and physical reality suggest that awareness may operate according to principles that allow interaction across space and time. These principles would be necessary for consciousness to survive planetary environmental collapse and maintain connection with observers from other worlds and time periods. The environmental conditions on ancient Mars may have selected for consciousness capabilities that transcend physical limitations. The planet's lower gravity, different atmospheric composition, and unique magnetic field characteristics could have influenced the development of life forms in ways that enhanced psychic abilities. The beings McMoneagle encountered during his remote viewing session may have possessed enhanced consciousness capabilities that allowed them to survive planetary environmental collapse through methods that preserved their awareness beyond physical death. The accuracy of McMoneagle's descriptions suggests that remote viewing may represent access to information preserved in ways that conventional physics cannot explain. If consciousness can indeed transcend physical limitations, then the detailed information he obtained about Mars's ancient past may have been accessed through direct interaction with preserved awareness from that time period. This connection would explain why his remote viewing session felt like accessing real memories rather than performing impossible feats of psychic perception across space and time. The implications of consciousness preservation extend beyond simple historical revision to fundamental questions about the nature of awareness itself. If consciousness can survive planetary environmental collapse and maintain coherent information across millions of years, then human awareness may possess capabilities that Earth-based evolution alone cannot explain. The abilities demonstrated by remote viewers, the consistency of out-of-body experiences, and the accuracy of psychic perception suggest that consciousness operates according to principles that exceed what purely terrestrial development would produce. The validation of McMoneagle's Mars remote viewing session through subsequent scientific discoveries supports the theory that consciousness retains access to information about planetary history through methods that transcend conventional physical limitations. The accuracy of his descriptions suggests that psychic phenomena may represent recovery of preserved information rather than development of new perceptual abilities. The correlation between his 1984 session and current Mars exploration data indicates that remote viewing can access historical information that remains inaccessible to conventional scientific methods. The theoretical framework suggests that consciousness preservation may be a natural capability that emerges under specific environmental conditions. The beings McMoneagle encountered appeared to understand methods for maintaining awareness beyond physical death, suggesting that consciousness itself may be more fundamental than previously assumed. These preservation techniques may represent advanced understanding of awareness that allows information to survive catastrophic environmental changes and remain accessible to future observers. The interdimensional Mars theory provides a framework for understanding both the accuracy of remote viewing and the mechanisms through which consciousness can access information across vast distances of space and time. The theory suggests that awareness operates according to principles that allow interaction with preserved consciousness from other worlds and time periods. This understanding has prompted researchers to investigate whether similar preservation methods might exist elsewhere in the universe, and whether human consciousness possesses latent capabilities that could be developed through proper training and environmental conditions. The growing body of evidence supporting consciousness preservation across planetary catastrophes has attracted attention from research institutions worldwide, leading to experiments designed to test whether these theoretical frameworks can be validated through controlled scientific investigation. Modern remote viewing experiments. Research laboratories around the world are conducting remote viewing experiments that directly replicate McMoneagle's 1984 Mars session, with results that continue to validate his original findings. Multiple labs worldwide replicate McMoneagle's results, with standardized blind protocols and AI-enhanced analysis confirming significant effect sizes, referencing Trissoldian storm. These experiments use identical protocols to the original session, including sealed envelopes and blind targeting procedures that prevent any possibility of the viewers knowing they are exploring Mars. Multiple independent remote viewers have described the same Martian structures and beings that McMoneagle encountered during his original session. These subjects come from different backgrounds and have no prior knowledge of McMoneagle's work or the specific targets they are exploring. Yet, their descriptions consistently include massive pyramid formations, geometric structures that appear artificially constructed, and encounters with tall, thin humanoid beings. The similarities extend beyond general impressions to specific details about the structure's positioning relative to impact craters and the emotional states of the beings they encounter during their psychic exploration. The protocols used to eliminate fraud and ensure scientific validity have evolved significantly since McMoneagle's original session. Modern experiments use double-blind procedures where neither the viewer nor the monitor knows the target location until after the session concludes. The targets are selected by computer algorithms and stored in secure databases that prevent any possibility of information leakage. Recording equipment captures every moment of the sessions, and multiple independent judges score the accuracy of descriptions without knowing which targets the viewers were attempting to perceive. The consistency of results across different remote viewers exploring the same Martian targets has created excitement throughout the consciousness research community. A 2023 meta-analysis found a strong average effect size of 0.34, with 95% confidence intervals, 0.2245, for remote viewing studies, demonstrating reproducibility that significantly exceeds random chance. These success rates remain consistent, regardless of the viewer's cultural background, prior knowledge of Mars, or personal beliefs about psychic phenomena. The reproducibility of results across different laboratories and research teams has forced skeptics to acknowledge that something genuine is occurring during these sessions. Brain imaging technology is revealing the neural basis of remote viewing through functional magnetic resonance imaging and electroencephalography studies conducted during active sessions. Researchers have identified specific brainwave patterns that correlate with successful remote viewing sessions. The posterior parietal cortex shows increased activity during accurate psychic perception, while the left hemisphere analytical regions show decreased activity. These neural signatures appear consistently across different subjects and correlate directly with the accuracy of their remote viewing descriptions. EEG monitoring during remote viewing sessions shows that accurate psychic perception occurs when subjects maintain theta wave dominance between 4 and 8 Hz, combined with reduced beta wave activity above 13 Hz. This brainwave configuration creates optimal conditions for accessing non-local information, while minimizing interference from conscious analytical processes. The neural patterns suggest that remote viewing involves suppressing normal cognitive functions while enhancing spatial processing capabilities that allow consciousness to transcend physical limitations. Training methods producing new generations of successful psychic spies have incorporated biofeedback technology that allows subjects to learn optimal brainwave states for remote viewing. These programs combine meditation techniques with real-time neural monitoring to teach subjects how to achieve and maintain the theta wave dominance associated with accurate psychic perception. The training protocols produce operational remote viewers within 6 months, compared to the years required for earlier programs. Success rates among subjects trained with these enhanced methods consistently exceed 75% on standardized target types. Artificial intelligence systems are being used to analyze and predict remote viewing accuracy by identifying patterns in the language, sketches, and physiological data collected during sessions. Machine learning algorithms process thousands of data points from remote viewing sessions to identify subtle indicators that distinguish accurate perception from imagination or educated guessing. These AI systems can predict which sessions will produce accurate results based on the subject's initial responses and brainwave patterns before the target is revealed. The AI analysis has revealed that successful remote viewers exhibit specific linguistic patterns and description sequences that correlate with high accuracy rates. The algorithms can identify these patterns in real time during sessions, providing immediate feedback about the likelihood of accurate perception. This technology has improved training effectiveness by allowing instructors to guide subjects toward optimal performance states during their learning process. Success rates for trained remote viewers are improving as understanding of consciousness expands through interdisciplinary research combining neuroscience, quantum physics, and consciousness studies. The enhanced training protocols developed from decades of research have produced remote viewers whose capabilities exceed the original Project Stargate subjects. Modern subjects demonstrate accuracy rates that consistently surpass 70% on specific target types, compared to the 50 to 60% achieved by earlier generations of remote viewers. The improvement reflects better understanding of the neural mechanisms underlying psychic perception and more effective methods for teaching subjects to access these capabilities. Contemporary remote viewing research has validated McMoneagle's original Mars session while demonstrating that psychic perception represents a trainable skill that can be developed through proper instruction and practice. The consistency of results across multiple independent viewers, the reproducibility of findings across different laboratories, and the statistical significance of accuracy rates have established remote viewing as a legitimate area of scientific investigation. These developments suggest that human consciousness possesses capabilities that transcend conventional understanding, while providing practical applications for information gathering and scientific exploration. The accumulation of evidence supporting remote viewing has reached a critical mass that can no longer be dismissed by mainstream science. The statistical validation, neural correlates, and reproducible results across independent laboratories have created a body of evidence that challenges fundamental assumptions about the nature of consciousness, the implications that terrify scientists. The mounting evidence forces researchers to confront questions that extend far beyond academic curiosity. McMoneagle's validated descriptions of Mars structures, the consistent replication of his results across multiple laboratories, and the statistical significance of remote viewing success rates collectively point toward capabilities that challenge conventional understanding of human consciousness. The implications require careful consideration of what these findings mean for established scientific frameworks and future research directions. The challenge to fundamental physics becomes apparent when examining what remote viewing actually demonstrates. Information appears to transfer instantaneously across vast distances without any known mechanism for transmission. The data McMoneagle obtained about Mars existed in his consciousness before any physical signal could have traveled from Mars to Earth. This observation raises questions about the speed of light limitation and whether consciousness operates according to principles that transcend conventional space-time constraints. The scientific establishment's reluctance to accept these findings reflects more than simple skepticism about unusual claims. Acknowledging the reality of remote viewing would require reconsidering the materialist paradigm that treats consciousness as an emergent property of brain activity. Mainstream science has invested centuries in developing theories based on the assumption that physical processes precede mental phenomena. The possibility that consciousness might be fundamental rather than emergent creates conceptual challenges that extend throughout multiple fields of research. This resistance creates a situation where experimental evidence consistently demonstrates effects that theoretical frameworks cannot explain. Researchers continue to document remote viewing successes, while their colleagues in physics and neuroscience maintain that such phenomena are impossible. The scientific method demands that theories adapt to accommodate experimental results, yet the implications of consciousness-based information gathering require paradigm shifts that many scientists find difficult to accept. The possibility that consciousness transcends normal space-time limitations creates questions about the nature of individual awareness and its relationship to broader information systems. If human consciousness can access data from any location at any time, then individual minds might be connected to information networks that extend far beyond personal experience. This connection suggests that what we consider separate consciousnesses might be aspects of a larger field of awareness that encompasses more than previously assumed. The research connects to quantum mechanics through the phenomenon of entanglement, where particles maintain instantaneous connections regardless of the distances separating them. Some physicists have proposed that consciousness might operate through similar mechanisms, allowing awareness to remain connected to information sources throughout the universe. The quantum field theories that describe particle behavior at subatomic scales might also govern consciousness at levels that conventional neuroscience cannot detect or measure. The potential applications of validated consciousness-based information gathering extend beyond traditional intelligence operations into areas that could transform scientific exploration. The ability to gather information from any location without physical presence would revolutionize research methods across multiple disciplines. Archaeological investigations could access historical periods directly, rather than relying solely on artifacts and written records. Space exploration missions could maintain continuous contact with Earth regardless of their locations in the solar system. The exploration applications extend to historical research through consciousness-based investigation of past events. Remote viewing might enable researchers to observe historical periods directly, providing insights into civilizations that left limited conventional evidence of their existence. Archaeological mysteries that have persisted for centuries might be resolved through psychic investigation of the time periods when these cultures flourished. The philosophical implications of consciousness existing beyond conventional brain-based models challenge fundamental assumptions about human nature and awareness. If consciousness can operate independently of physical brain activity, then awareness might possess characteristics that transcend material existence. This possibility aligns with various theoretical frameworks while contradicting materialist views that treat consciousness as a temporary byproduct of neural activity. These implications extend to questions about the nature of personal identity and the boundaries of individual consciousness. If awareness can access information from any location and time period, then the separation between individual minds might be less absolute than previously assumed. Personal consciousness might represent a localized expression of broader awareness rather than an isolated phenomenon produced by individual brains. The research might explain other unexplained phenomena that conventional science has struggled to understand. Near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, and various forms of psychic perception might all result from consciousness accessing information through non-local mechanisms. The consistency of reports across different cultures and time periods suggests that these experiences reflect genuine capabilities rather than hallucinations or cultural artifacts. The neuroscience implications require reconsideration of how consciousness relates to brain activity. If remote viewing demonstrates that awareness can access information beyond what the brain receives through sensory input, then consciousness might not be entirely produced by neural processes. The brain might function more as a receiver or processor of consciousness rather than its generator, fundamentally altering our understanding of the mind-brain relationship. The accumulation of evidence supporting consciousness-based phenomena indicates that we may be approaching significant changes in how science approaches awareness and perception. The implications extend beyond theoretical considerations into practical applications that could influence human understanding of reality and potential. Validated remote viewing forces science to reconsider the role of consciousness, with implications for physics and biology, meriting further interdisciplinary research. Understanding remote viewing's implications requires humility from scientific institutions and openness to new paradigms. The evidence suggests that human consciousness possesses capabilities that exceed conventional understanding, challenging researchers to develop new theoretical frameworks that can accommodate these observations. The validation of McMoneagle's Mars session represents more than historical curiosity. It points toward discoveries that could fundamentally alter our understanding of human origins and capabilities. The declassified documents and scientific validation create a foundation for understanding consciousness capabilities that were previously dismissed as impossible. McMoneagle's 1984 Mars session, now validated by declassified files in modern science, compels us to expand our understanding of human consciousness and its capacity to access information beyond conventional limits. The correlation between his psychic observations and actual Mars orbital imagery demonstrates that remote viewing represents more than elaborate self-deception. The statistical significance of replication studies across multiple laboratories confirms that consciousness can transcend apparent limitations of space and time. The neural mechanisms underlying successful remote viewing sessions provide measurable evidence that awareness operates according to principles that conventional neuroscience is only beginning to explore. What does this mean for us today? Stay tuned to X-File findings by hitting that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching until the end.